We're in the middle of the corn planting season in the US and a trade war which could shift market dynamics. I'm Fiona Cincotta at StoneX, and to take a deeper look into the corn market, I'm joined by Chief Commodities Economist Arlan Suderman. Thank you for joining us, Arlan.
My pleasure to be here today.
With regards to the corn planting season in the US, we already know that total acreage will be 5% higher than last year, and there are several reasons to that. Tell us more.
Well, first of all, the economics works better for corn than soybeans. It's not that farmers are making more money necessarily, but the projected losses are a little bit smaller. And when you come down to it, we've seen a greater ability of the farmer to grow his yield, how much per unit of area he plants with corn and soybeans. The advances in the genetics have been better. So if you have losses and you want to grow your way out of those losses with higher yields, he feels like he has a better opportunity to do that with corn. And overall, the other factor is, as one of my professors told me nearly 50 years ago, believe it or not, is that every man loves to stand beside a tall field of corn. And the only ones who don't grow corn are the ones who can't because of climate or soil. So if given the opportunity, all else being the same, they're going to plant corn, and that's what we're seeing this year.
And we also know that China has turned to Brazil to import more and cheaper grains. Now, in the case of corn, an agreement was signed between the two countries in May 2022, allowing imports from Brazil. And there's now a trade war that could shift the market dynamics further. What in the current picture of US corn exports?
Well, the export picture is frankly pretty constant with what it's been for much of the last year, although that declines in what we're seeing in China and grows what we're selling elsewhere. If you look at the relationship between China and Brazil, it's certainly good. And to say that you can't look at geopolitical tensions would be naive of me. But from a pure economic standpoint, if Brazil has corn or soybeans for that matter to sell, it's going to be cheaper for China to buy it because of currency exchange rates. Brazil has vast amount of territory that it can convert to cropland, from brushland to cropland, without even touching the rainforest. And so if it's economical to do so, it's going to do so. And for the last 15 years, its currency has been falling in value, and that has stimulated more growth in area. And so as it has more to produce, it's going to be cheaper for China to convert yuans into rias than yuans into the strong dollar. It's going to buy from Brazil. But meanwhile, the U.S. has been growing its exports to Mexico and to a couple of other markets where we have a freight advantage. Mexico's been the strength of our export program. So when you look over the last 10, 15 years, our exports have really been pretty constant, although as an absolute value, but smaller as a percent of world market share.
So around a fifth of production is exported. And what happens to 80% of the production?
Well, the other 80% is primarily, obviously, domestic consumption, with roughly half of that going to ethanol production for fuel, the other half going to feed production for livestock. Now, there is a small component in there for food use as well, but the three-legged stool of demand for the United States is obviously exports, ethanol, and then feed use.
So just going back to planting in the US, corn is grown in numerous states, the top producers being Illinois, Iowa, and there's also being grown in Nebraska, Minnesota, western parts of North and South Dakota. Now, we know that Nebraska is currently affected by dryness. What is the situation for other corn producing states, and what are the predictions when it comes to yield?
Yeah, if you look back a couple of months ago, it was kind of a dire situation with subsoil moisture levels being very low across most of the Midwest. You indicated the dryness still in Nebraska, and that's still a problem, although they did get some rain here over the last few days that will help. About 60% of Nebraska corn will be irrigated, although those subsoil moisture levels that they depend on for irrigation are somewhat in decline. But that does help maintain production overall. But you look at most of the other states, they've been seeing a significant improvement in moisture. North and South Dakota, Nebraska being those states that still have some deficit areas, parts of Iowa still having some deficit areas. But overall, the pattern is turning much wetter now. And so the expectation is that we're going to start the growing season in good shape with the acres planted in a relatively timely manner with good soil moisture. Of course, we'll need to see that continue through June, July, and August, and forecasters are currently having some questions about whether that'll happen.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for your analysis, Arlan, and letting us know what to be watching. We look forward to having you back with us again soon. For more videos like this, please do like and subscribe.